Hello everyone. Today I will talk about the case statement, its two different forms and the different ways that we can use case statements. So let's begin. So the first form of the case statement is a simple form. And this is the syntax of a case statement in the simple form. It begins with the case keyword and ends with a end keyword, and everything else goes between these keywords here. So in the simple form, there is an expression that you put right next to the case keyword, and whatever that expression evaluates to, it gets compared with the values in the when clauses here. So value 1, value 2, and if there is a match, then we get the corresponding result. And if the expression, whatever it evaluates to, if it doesn't match any of the values, then we get a default result. And that's how the simple form works for a case statement. Let's see an example. So in this example, we have this table here. And what we're trying to do is check if the respective amounts are odd or even. And what we want to do here is add another column and have the values odd or even right next to this, right? So let's see how we can do that using the simple form. So we can do that using this. So we'll select all the columns here, and because we want all of the 4 columns that we already see here, and we want to add another column. So we'll add another column using a case statement here. So this is the simple form. So the expression comes right next to the case keyword. So the expression that we have here is amount modulus 2. Now what the modulus does is it divides the number on the left with the number on the right and gives us the remainder. So this expression, the answer to this expression, it gets compared with this value and this value. And if it doesn't match either of those, it comes to this value. Else we get the corresponding result, right? So amount modulus 2, when it matches 0, then our number is even. If it matches 1, then our amount is odd. And in this particular case where we're checking if the number is odd or even, the else statement will never get activated, but this actually shows us the entire, the full range of syntax of the case statement. So let's run this. And so we can see that we have a new column here called parity. So this is something that we do. All the case statements usually end with an alias because what you want to call that column, you should specify that. So in this case, if you remove that alias, it'll just say no column name. So that's why it's just good to have a name. So we can see that 1200 is even and 75 is odd and so on. So that's how you use the simple form. The simple form, I should mention, is used less than the second form. So let's take a look at the second form. So the second form that we have is the searched form, and it's different as compared to the simple form in the sense that the expression now or the condition is not written right next to the case statement, but it is written inside the when clauses here. So you can specify multiple conditions and get the respective results for those conditions. In the simple form, what is there is that you only have one expression and you're checking for equality with value 1 or value 2. So you are like stuck with one expression and checking only equalities. But in the searched form, what you can do is have different conditions where you can actually this says condition 1, you can also add more conditions. For example, you can say you want to check 2 conditions and get the result only if both of them are true. So you can say condition 1b, and you can also add an or, and you can say condition c, and then get the result 1. And then you might have a separate condition 2a, b, c, and if you want that, then you can proceed like that. So, and you always mention a else clause, because what if it doesn't match any of these conditions? So whatever you're trying to check, so it should default to a base value, right? If it's not there, if the else condition the else clause is missing, then you will get a null, and nulls are never good. So you should always have an else. And then we always end it with an end keyword. Let's see an example of this. So what we want to do here is replace or change some value. So this is one kind of like use case for the case statement. So this is the table that we have, right? And in that, what we want to do is, let's see. So the side table product name was incorrectly entered as desk lamp. So wherever in the product name desk lamp comes, we have to change that to side table. So we are changing those values or replacing values, and change items with amount $1,200 to $1,400. So one thing to realize here is that these are 2 different columns that we're talking about. So one is product name. So we are changing desk lamp to side table inside the product name column. And the second change we're doing in the amount column. So we'll have 2 different case statements here. So let's see how we can do that. Actually, let me spread this a little better so it's easier to see. It's easier on the eyes. So what we're trying to do is change or replace the values, right? So we select all the columns, and I'll just add 2 new columns here so that we can compare the old columns and the new columns. So we start with the first one where we have to change the desk lamp to a side table. So we start with the case statement as usual, and you notice that this is the searched form. So the expression is not right next to the case keyword. So it's inside the when clause. So what we're checking is that when product name is equal to desk lamp, then what we want to do is want to change it to side table. So we specify the value here, and very important, the else clause. What if the product name is not desk lamp for all the other ones here? What happens then? So you want to keep it the same. So you just give it product name. So that is our default value. Whatever it is, that just is the result if it's not a desk lamp. And then we end, and then we give it an alias. We're going to call it product name new. That's the new name of the column. And for the second one, amount, we do the same thing. When amount is equal to 1200, we want to change it to 1400. Else we keep the same amount as is, right? And then we give it an alias, amount new. So let's run this. And we can see that where there is desk lamp here, it's now changed to side table. And wherever the amount was 1200, which is only one instance here, we change that to 1400. And that is one use case, replacing and changing values. The next example is actually just an extension of replacing and changing values. So it is to manipulate values. So what we want to do is that we have the same table, and we want to give a 50% discount on items which are less than $200 unless it is a blender. And the second one is price increases to double on items over $1,000. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. And in this one, we are only making changes to one column, amount, right? So we only have one case statement, but we can check different conditions or multiple conditions inside this case statement here. So let's see that. So as usual, we start by selecting all the columns because we want to see the comparison of the old columns with the new column. And so I'll start with the case statement with the case keyword. And I want to check for the first condition on all items less than 250% discount unless it is a blender. So what we do is we check if the amount is less than $200 and product name is not equal to a blender. Then we want to give a 50% discount. So how you see how there are multiple columns involved here in the expression or in the condition. So we are checking if amount is less than 200 or not, and also checking if the product name is a blender. And then we're making some manipulation to that amount. So that's the first one. And the second one is we want to double the amount for anything that's over $1,000. So we just type that out. So any amount that's over $1,000, then the amount gets doubled. What if it doesn't matches any of those conditions here? Then we want to have a default amount, which is what it already is. That's the amount. So we are going to end this with an alias, right? So we're going to call this new column amount new, and let's run that. And we're going to see that. So that's why I've ordered it by amount. So it's easier to spot the values that are less than 200. So these are all less than 200, and they have been halved here, as you can see, unless it is a blender. So we have successfully done that. And if the amount is greater than $1,000, which is here for the laptop, it becomes double. So that's one way of using case statements, manipulating values. The next one is binning or categorizing values. So basically you can convert the numerical values to categories and put them into different buckets. And here what we want to do is, so we have the same table, and we want to say if the amount is between this range, then call it low. And if it is between 500 and 999, we call it medium, else it is high, right? So we want to add another column here and bin them here, bin our amounts. So let's see how we can do that. So this is how we will do it. Let me run this first and then address how it's working. So what we wanted to do is happening here. So anything that's $1,000 and above is high. So we had a laptop that's $1,200. It's now the price grade is high, and anything that's below 500 is low. So below 500, this is our these are the rows below 500, and these are all lows. So this works. But let me go through the code a little bit because it can be confusing. So when I was starting out, I used to get very confused. So let me show you what my confusion was. So let's take an item where the amount is more than $1,200, actually more than $1,000. So this is $1,200. When it comes to this statement here, 1200 is greater than or equal to 1000. So it gets labeled as high, right? But when it comes here, 1200 is also greater than or equal to 500. Then it should be labeled as medium. So like that was my entire confusion. Like this one value is more than both of these numbers here. So which one does it get evaluated to? But again, to reiterate, how the case statements work is if one condition is matched, then it is not going to check the other conditions. It is just going to move to the next row. So if it starts, let's say if it starts with this row here, it says amount 75. Is it greater than or equal to 1000? No. So it goes down here. If it checks, if this condition evaluates to false, it goes to the next condition. So in this case, it is else. So that's why we're getting low. And if it was high, say 1200, you will check that here and this becomes true. So it gets assigned a value high and it moves on to the next row, whatever the next row would have been here. So that is how it works. And that is why this works here, like this outlay. But what you can also do here is for example, if you want to say medium, it is also okay to specify explicit buckets. So you can say when amount is greater than or equal to 500 and amount is less than 1000, then medium. So you can do that as well, which is totally fine. But like, I think it's important to understand, in this case, what happens is that you're writing less code. So this is like a small table with, less buckets. What if there are like millions of rows and there are like tens of thousands of different buckets? Then the code, like the amount of code that you have to type is going to get out of hand really quickly. So I think it is best to use this one and get yourself familiarized. And the next example that we have is a custom sort. So for example, in the table, I'm going to sort the records by category here. So when I do that, I see that it gets sorted in ascending order. So we see the A's first and then the E's and then the F's. And if I do it in descending order, then the opposite of this is going to happen, right? So you see the A's at the last and then the E's and then the F's. But what if I wanted to sort the category I want to see electronics first and then furniture and then appliance? What to do then, right? So you can use a case statement to do that as well. So how you do that is you put the case statement in the order by clause, and probably this is the only time where you don't need to use an alias, or actually you should not use an alias, right? Because you're just ordering this. But what you do is you want to see electronics first, right? So you say, so you're going to use the second form, the searched form, and you're going to say when category is electronics, then 1. So 1 will, all these rows which evaluate to 1 are going to be at the top. So when you want the furniture to be the second category, so you say furniture, then 2. When the category is appliances, then 3, right? So let's run that. So you'll see that all the electronic ones are on the top, the furniture one's the second. Now, if you want to additionally sort it using amount, you are free to do that. So you can say, comma amount. You can do that as well. So inside the electronics category now, it's sorted by the amount, right? So that's another use case. And I think one place where you can use this is, for example, we have a happiness index where there are different countries with different ranks. And let's say you're in Canada, so you want to show the rank of Canada on the top and show the users how it compares to other countries. But you're in Canada, so you want that to be on the top. And let's say you're in India, and so you want to show that country's rank on the top. So whatever your use case is for, sorting it in a custom order, case statements can be used to do that. And for binning and categorizing, let's say you have a retail store and you want to put your customers into different categories, let's say high spending, medium spending, or low spending, and you want to do some kind of analysis like which category brings you the most amount of revenue, so you can have like targeted marketing campaigns for them or some discounts or promotions for them. So that would be a use case here. And you can also, like for machine learning, you can do one-hot encoding using this, right? So these are all the different use cases for the case statement, and that's how you use it in SQL. Thank you.